Today's episode is about a real crime that happened in Xinzhuang District, Xinbei City, Taiwan. And if this is your first time here at Bedtime Crime, consider supporting us with a subscribe. We release new true crime stories every night to help you relax or fall asleep. Alright now, let's lie down, close your eyes, and don't forget to lock the door. The story begins on May 9, 2013. A middle-aged man accompanied an elderly woman to the Xinzhuang Police Substation, part of the Xinbei City Police Department, to report a case. With a restless demeanor, the 76-year-old woman told the police that her granddaughter had gone missing. The missing granddaughter, named Chen Yuru, was 26 years old and studying in the evening English program at Furin Catholic University. Previously, she lived with her grandparents in Xinzhuang District. However, in early 2010, her grandfather's severe arthritis made it difficult for him to navigate their second-floor apartment, which lacked an elevator. Consequently, her grandparents decided to move elsewhere. First, to avoid climbing stairs, and second, to be closer to a hospital for medical visits. From then on, Yuru lived alone. In the next 2 years, Yuru frequently visited her grandparents' new home for meals and check-ins. Over time, however, her visits became less frequent, reduced to occasional phone calls. Recently, she stopped calling altogether. On the evening of May 8, 2013, an inexplicable anxiety gripped her grandmother, as if her heart were burning. She called Yuru, but there was no answer. Alarmed, she contacted her youngest son, Yuru's uncle, and asked him to check on Yuru at her university. When the uncle arrived, he learned that Yuru had not attended classes for 10 days. The school was about to contact the family to inquire. Hearing this, the uncle rushed to Yuru's apartment, only to discover a shocking truth. Yuru had sold the apartment to someone else. This was highly unusual. Although the apartment was legally hers, inherited from her parents, selling it quietly and cutting off contact raised serious concerns. The next morning, the uncle drove his mother to the police station to file a report. Through their initial investigation, the police learned that Chen Yuru, then 26, had led a tragic life. Her father was a mechanical engineer, and her mother ran a small grocery stall. Yuru had an older brother, 4 years her senior. The family of 4, along with her grandparents, totaling 6, lived happily together. When Yuru was 12, her father died in a traffic accident. 3 years later, her brother was arrested for using and dealing drugs at school. Unable to cope with these 2 devastating blows, Yuru's mother fell into depression. One day, when Yuru returned home, she found that her mother had taken her own life. In just 3 years, a once warm family was shattered. This was a profound psychological blow to Yuru, who was only 16 or 17 at the time. The trauma caused her academic performance to plummet, and she required psychological counseling for a period. Fortunately, after more than 2 years of dedicated treatment, Yuru's mental state improved significantly. She began studying for entrance exams and successfully enrolled in the English department at Furin Catholic University. She worked during the day and attended classes at night. Additionally, she participated in extracurricular activities, particularly singing competitions. Seeing their granddaughter recover, her grandparents were overjoyed. Their joy grew even more in 2009, when Yuru fell in love for the first time. Her boyfriend, a tall and handsome member of the university's basketball team, also surnamed Chen, occasionally visited Yuru's home. At that time, her grandparents still lived with her, only moving out in early 2010. From their observations, Yuru seemed genuinely happy, and her boyfriend appeared caring and attentive. However, the happiness was short-lived. A few months later, their relationship ended. The young man, surnamed Chen, left her for another woman. Despite Yuru's pleas and attempts to salvage the relationship, he was resolute in his decision to leave. Yuru was heartbroken. During visits to her grandparents' home for meals, any mention of the breakup would bring her to tears. The failed romance left a deep wound in her heart. In the following period, Yuru became depressed, locking herself in her room and avoiding interaction with others. According to the buyer of her apartment, he purchased it for 4.3 million Taiwan dollar, approximately 144,000. Of this, 2.7 million Taiwan dollar, or about 90,000, was the amount of money Yuru mortgaged her house to the bank, and the remainder paid to Yuru via bank transfer. The sale itself was unusual, but the price was even more baffling. The apartment's market value was at least 8 million Taiwan dollar, roughly 267,000, yet Yuru sold it for slightly more than half that amount. Why did Yuru take out such a large bank loan, and why sell the apartment at such a low price? This was perplexing. The police contacted Yuru's ex-boyfriend, surnamed Chen, who confirmed that he had not been in touch with Yuru for 2 years. After their breakup, Yuru had begged to reconcile, often contacting him despite his new relationship. Finding it troublesome, he blocked her number and cut off contact. Around that time, he graduated and left Shinbei City to live elsewhere. He stated that if the police hadn't approached him, he would have forgotten he ever had such a girlfriend. After verification, the police found no evidence linking him to Yuru's disappearance. Since Yuru did not return to her grandparents' home after selling the apartment, where was she staying? The police discovered she had rented a cheap room about 9 kilometers from her old place. The investigation team obtained a warrant to search the rented room. On May 20, 2013, with the landlord's assistance, they used a spare key to enter. The room was relatively tidy, with no signs of a struggle or anything unusual. A laptop on the table required a password to access, which the police couldn't immediately unlock. Next to it was a diary filled with heartfelt entries expressing love and longing for her ex-boyfriend, surnamed Chen, along with carefully pasted photos of the two together. It was clear that Yuru's feelings for him remained intense. The police wondered if Yuru, unable to move on from her ex, had become so depressed and hopeless that she made an extreme decision, like her mother had. A more optimistic theory was that she might have gone traveling alone to clear her mind. However, a closer inspection of the room revealed that her clothes, shoes, bags, cosmetics, toothbrush, towel, and suitcase were all still there, not the typical setup for someone traveling, especially a young woman. Furthermore, the last known footage of Yuru, captured on April 27, 2013, showed her at the Furin Catholic University cafeteria, buying a bottle of water and a snack. Her expression and demeanor showed no signs of someone contemplating suicide. In a drawer at Yuru's desk, the police found a stack of papers, including 3 crucial bank transfer receipts. These documented transfers from Yuru, 100, 0 Taiwan dollar, and 200, 0 Taiwan dollar, approximately 300 and 600, on October 17 and December 10, 2012, respectively, and 3 million Taiwan dollar, about 100, 0, on January 31, 2013. All 3 transfers went to an account belonging to a man named Huang Wenken. The large sums weren't surprising, given that Yuru had sold her apartment and taken out a loan. The key question was the relationship between Yuru and Huang Wenkan. Who was he? Through further investigation, the police identified Huang Wenkan, a 39-year-old married man who owned a private company providing services akin to private investigation. In Taiwan, such services are called credit investigation rather than private detective work, though the tasks, tracking, surveillance, and verifying cases independently for clients are similar. Clients might hire such services to gather evidence of a spouse's infidelity or investigate business partners. In October 2010, Huang Wenkin opened a company in Taichung. In January 2013, he co-founded another investigation firm with partners. The Xinbei police requested assistance from the Taichung police to interview Huang Wenkan about his connection to Yuru. According to Huang, he met Yuru through an online role-playing game, popular in Taiwan at the time, similar to games like MU or Wulin Legend. They were part of the same in-game guild. Noticing that Yuru, a student, had limited funds, Huang lent her 300 Taiwan dollar to upgrade her in-game weapons, armor, and items. The 100 Taiwan dollar and 200 Taiwan dollar transfers in 2012 were repayments for that loan. The 3 million Taiwan dollar transfer in January 2013, he claimed, was a loan from Yuru to support his newly established company's capital needs. Yuru, having just sold her apartment, agreed to lend him the money for 1 month. Huang said he repaid the 3 million Taiwan dollar a month later, along with an additional 20 Taiwan dollar, about 700, as interest and gratitude. He added that, being busy running 2 companies, he hadn't contacted Yuru since March 2013. He only learned of her disappearance when the police approached him. Neither Yuru's ex-boyfriend, surnamed Chen, nor Huang Wenkan seemed to have information about her disappearance. At this point, the police could only file a formal case and seek approval for more advanced investigative measures. Once approved, they pursued 2 lines of inquiry. First, they requested telecommunications support to review call and message logs for Yuru, her ex-boyfriend, and Huang Wenkan. Second, the cybercrime unit worked to unlock the password-protected laptop seized from Yuru's rented room. In the first line of inquiry, the ex-boyfriend had no calls with Yuru in the past 2 years, and Huang Wenkin had no contact with her since March 2013. Meanwhile, camera footage from April 27, 2013, showed Yuru at the university cafeteria, attending school as usual. Analyzing Yuru's call and message logs, the police noted frequent communication with a number registered to someone named Lin Ye. There were numerous text messages exchanged, though the content wasn't accessible, as telecom providers could only provide message counts. The last call Yuru made, at 1:45 p.m. on April 27, was to a number registered to Tong Bin. The final signal from Yuru's phone was traced to Taibao City, Jiayi County, over 240 kilometers from Xinzhuang Xinbei, before it was turned off. The police promptly investigated the owners of these 2 numbers. Lin Ye, who frequently texted Yuru, and Tong Bin, the last person she contacted. Both numbers were also turned off since April 27, like Yuru's. Surprisingly, locating Lin Ye and Tong Bin was straightforward, but neither knew of the numbers or each other. Their only commonality was that both had lost their wallets, including identification documents, and had applied for replacements. It appeared someone had stolen their IDs, sold them on the black market, and used them to register the phone numbers. Further verification confirmed that Lin Ye and Tong Bin were unrelated to the case, and the true users of the numbers remained unknown, as the SIMs had not been reactivated. Meanwhile, the cybercrime unit successfully unlocked Yuru's laptop, uncovering suspicious details. In early 2010, after her breakup, Yuru corresponded via email with someone using the nickname Li Tianren. Their emails revealed that Li Tianren was a spiritual practitioner specializing in love charms. Yuru had hired him to cast a spell to win back her ex-boyfriend. Li Tianren agreed, requiring payment for a ritual to appease deities, with half paid up front and the rest upon success. The ritual was performed, but after 6 months, Yuru emailed Li Tianren, complaining of no results and demanding a refund. Li Tianren refused, stating the money had been offered to higher powers and couldn't be returned. He invited her to Tiancheng Dao to perform another ritual, claiming it would guarantee success. The investigators hypothesized that Li Tianren might have exploited Yuru's desire to reunite with her ex, scamming her into selling her apartment cheaply. When Yuru realized she was deceived and demanded her money back, he might have killed her in Jie to avoid repayment. This motive seemed plausible. Without tracing the email's IP address, the investigators posed as a woman betrayed by her husband, asking Li Tianren for a spell to bring him back. They received an immediate reply, inviting them to Tiancheng Dao in Shilin, Taipei, with a clear address. Quick verification revealed that Li Tianren's real name was Li Nan. 11 years earlier, he had been convicted of fraud. After 2 years in prison, he resumed superstitious practices under the guise of spirituality. He later purchased a house in Shilin, Taipei, decorated it, and named it Tiancheng Dao to continue his trade. In Taiwan, many believe in spiritual practices, and such transactions are consensual, allowing places like Tiancheng Dao to operate unless fraud is reported. However, when questioned about Yuru's disappearance, Li Nan appeared frightened, his usual calm demeanor gone. He insisted he had no involvement, and, to prove it, detailed his interactions with Yuru. Li Nan explained that Yuru found him through an online advertisement, claiming he had supernatural abilities, not only exorcising spirits and protecting homes, but also helping those unlucky in love or betrayed to win back their partners. Yuru contacted him, sharing her romantic troubles. After calculating her birth date, Li Nan claimed her romantic woes stemmed from a ghost, with the spirit of a prince killed in battle, who followed her and prevented men from loving her. He proposed a ritual to sever this spirit, costing 100 Taiwan dollar, about 30 with 50 Taiwan dollar paid up front, and the rest after completion. Yuru agreed, paying the initial 50 Taiwan dollar. 3 rituals were conducted at Tiancheng Dao, with Li Nan requiring Yuru to purchase an additional charm for 50 Taiwan dollar, about 167 per ritual, to burn at the highest point in Jindian district after praying. After the 3rd ritual, Li Nan claimed the spirit was severed, and the prince's spirit was gone. However, Yuru's ex-boyfriend remained with his new girlfriend. Yuru refused to pay the remaining 50 Taiwan dollar. Li Nan then said the previous rituals only addressed the spirit. To make her ex return, she needed to provide his birth details for another ritual costing 20 Taiwan dollar, about 700. Desperate, Yuru paid for this 4th ritual. A week later, her ex-boyfriend broke up with his new girlfriend, but began dating someone else instead of returning to Yuru. Li Nan argued that divine spells weren't instant and required patience. Yuru waited, but with no results, especially after her ex graduated, moved away, and blocked her. She demanded a refund, claiming the spells were ineffective. Li Nan countered that, without her ex's current address and a recent photo, the spell's efficacy was halved. He offered a guaranteed spell if she provided these, promising a full refund if it failed. This was difficult for Yuru, as she had no contact with her ex and couldn't obtain a recent photo. She provided an old photo of them together, but Li Nan insisted it had to be recent. This was likely a tactic to avoid refunding her, as her failure to provide the photo would be her fault. Unexpectedly, Yuru, driven by her obsession, sought a solution. Among Li Nan's regular clients, a woman surnamed Wu recommended a private investigation firm, which she had used to gather evidence of her husband's affair. She suggested Yuru contact them to locate her ex's address. After this, Linan said Yuru stopped contacting him about refunds, and he didn't reach out to her, ending their communication. After verification, the police found Linan's account credible and lacked evidence to suspect him in Yuru's disappearance, so he was removed from the suspect list. They then asked Wu about the investigation firm she recommended. When she named Huang Wenkan's company, the police were taken aback. This meant Huang Wenkan had lied. Yuru learned of him through Wu's referral, not through a game as he claimed. The financial transactions between them also raised questions. Despite Huang's claim of repaying the 3 million Taiwan dollar, no such transaction appeared in Yuru's bank accounts, and no cash was found in her rented room. If he repaid her, where was the money? With evidence of deceit, the police had grounds to suspect Huang Wenkan's involvement in Yuru's disappearance. They immediately brought him to his company for further questioning. Confronted, Huang admitted to lying, explaining he did so to protect his marriage. He recounted that in mid-2011, when Wu referred Yuru to him for help finding her ex's address, he initially intended to treat it as a standard job. However, after learning about Yuru's tragic past and her obsessive love, he pitied her. He believed that even if he found her ex, superstitious rituals wouldn't bring him back, and she'd waste money and hope. Using his psychological training and experience as a private investigator, he counseled Yuru, explaining that love couldn't be forced. He met her in Taichung and visited her in Xinbei over 10 times, encouraging positive thinking. Over time, Yuru seemed to move on from her ex and vowed to start anew. To thank him, Yuru invited Huang for drinks. That night, both got drunk, and Yuru confessed she had fallen for him, largely because of his support. Under the influence, Huang, forgetting his family, spent the night with her. The next morning, he tried to apologize and end the relationship, but Yuru promised to be his secret lover without disrupting his family. Huang admitted he had feelings for her and agreed to the clandestine relationship. During their affair, Yuru borrowed 3 million Taiwan dollar from him to prepare for studying abroad in the US. After graduation, he showed the police a bank withdrawal receipt for 3.2 million Taiwan dollar, about 107,000, and a loan agreement signed by Yuru for 3 million Taiwan dollar, both dated the same day. On January 31, 2013, after an argument, Yuru, feeling insulted, repaid the 3 million Taiwan dollar via transfer. Huang said he deleted their messages to avoid his wife's suspicion, but believed Yuru kept hers, suggesting the police check her phone if found to verify his story. After this interrogation, the police found Huang's story, though somewhat romanticized, plausible, supported by the bank receipt and loan agreement. Telecom records confirmed no contact between Huang and Yuru since March 2013, aligning with his claim of a breakup. It appeared Huang was unrelated to Yuru's disappearance. However, one detail in his account raised doubts: Yuru's diary, found in her room. Since falling in love with her ex, surnamed Chen, Yuru's diary entries shifted. Previously, about personal and family matters, they became "My Love Diary for You," dedicated to her relationship with him. After their breakup, she wrote daily about her pain and longing, continuing until April 26 and 27, 2013, the day she vanished and her phone was turned off. If Huang's account were true, that Yuru fell in love with him and moved on from her ex, even becoming his secret lover, why did she continue writing daily about her ex? Psychologically, this seemed inconsistent. Additionally, selling her apartment at half its market value was inexplicable, even if she needed quick cash. Why such urgency? The 2.7 million Taiwan dollar loan she took by mortgaging the apartment. What was it for? Too many questions remained unanswered. From a psychological perspective, during questioning, Huang confidently claimed Yuru kept their messages, suggesting the police check her phone to verify his story. As a private investigator, he likely knew legal procedures. His confidence might stem from knowing the phone, a key piece of evidence, would never be found, possibly because he destroyed it. If so, Yuru might have been harmed. The police remained suspicious of Huang, but lacked sufficient evidence, like the diary or her financial decisions, to charge him. Unable to confront Huang directly, the police took a detour. They revisited the last call Yuru made on April 27, 2013, to the number registered to Tongbin, who was cleared of involvement. The fake SIM, like Yuru's, was deactivated, and its true user was untraceable. However, its signal followed the same route as Yuru's phone, from Xinzhuang to Jiayi, before both were turned off. The police hypothesized that the perpetrator, using the fake SIM, might have carried their personal phone, which would show a similar signal path. They tasked the cybercrime unit and telecom providers with filtering all phone signals matching the route and timing of Yuru's and the fake SIM's phones. After nearly 2 months of meticulous analysis, using advanced techniques, they identified a matching signal from a phone registered to Shi Kunji, a service driver from Taichung. When summoned, Shi appeared nervous, repeatedly asking the escorting officers why he was being investigated. During interrogation, the mystery began to unravel. Shi Kunji, primarily a service driver, occasionally worked part-time for Huang Wenkan's investigation firm. The firm often hired external drivers, familiar with roads, to assist in surveillance tasks, as they were less likely to be noticed. On April 27, 2013, Huang contacted Shi, offering 60 Taiwan dollar, about 20 for a job. Huang provided a phone and a SIM registered to Tongbin, instructing Shi to use it for communication. The task was to pick up a female student, described as the mistress of a businessman whose wife hired the firm to bring her for a meeting. Huang noted the student's superstitious nature, saying he had arranged for someone to pose as a spiritual master, whom she trusted. Shi was to present himself as the master's envoy and use the provided phone and SIM, not his personal number. Following instructions, Shi used the fake SIM to call Yuru and pick her up. On the way to Jiayi, he gave her a bottle of water, which, per Huang's orders, he had injected with a sedative using a syringe. He told Yuru it was purifying water for the upcoming ritual. 10 minutes after drinking it, Yuru passed out. Shi drove to the designated meeting point, an empty lot on Xiangshun Road, carried Yuru to Huang's waiting car, and left. He claimed he knew nothing further, having followed orders and received his payment afterward. With Shi's testimony, though not enough to confirm Huang as the killer, the police had grounds to treat him as a primary suspect. They obtained warrants to arrest Huang and search his home and company. At 7:30 a.m. on December 9, 2013, Huang Wenkan was arrested. By 9:00 a.m., searches of his residence and workplace uncovered critical evidence: 3 bottles of sedatives, a password, protected external hard drive, and a significant amount of drugs on the attic. After technicians cracked the hard drive, they found numerous images and videos revealing Huang's depravity. The videos showed him with various women, including his wife, his company secretary, workers, and, notably, 3 women who appeared unconscious during the acts. One was Yuru. The other 2 were unidentified. Numerous nude photos of Yuru and the other women were also found, including one of Yuru unconscious in a bathtub with charm symbols on her hand. This evidence suggested why Yuru paid Huang large sums. He likely used the compromising videos to extort money from her and others. Initially, Huang denied the charges. Over 2 months, the police interrogated him 11 times. He remained defiant for the first 10 sessions, but in the 11th, he suddenly confessed, claiming that in detention, Yuru's spirit haunted him nightly, preventing sleep and driving him to confess to lighten his burden. The sequence leading to Yuru's death was clarified. Yuru sought Linan's services for love charms, but when he required her ex's current address and recent photo, she couldn't comply. Wu, a regular at Linan's, referred her to Huang Wenkan's firm. Recognizing Yuru's vulnerability and obsessive love, Huang saw her as an easy target. He initially agreed to find her ex's address, and, using an old photo, located him. Instead of delivering the information and collecting his fee, he warned Yuru that Linan was a fraud with no real powers, claiming he had investigated him. Huang said he had studied under a highly skilled master, rarely accessible, who could guarantee success. Offering to arrange a connection, he convinced Yuru to try, promising to cover initial costs, which she could repay if satisfied. After midnight, Yuru texted the number Huang provided, believing it was the master's. Huang had warned her the master, having sacrificed speech for spiritual power, could only communicate via text. The conversation amazed Yuru, as the master seemed to know her past and her relationship with her ex in detail. The master claimed her dark energy, repelled her ex, and would prevent future relationships unless her fate was altered through 10 rituals over a year. In reality, the master was Huang using a fake SIM registered to Linye, which the police had investigated. Yuru, desperate to reunite with her ex, agreed. For the first 2 rituals, Huang covered the costs, performing them at a rented house with a makeshift altar. He gave Yuru purifying water, laced with synthetic drugs, inducing a trance-like state. After these rituals, her ex coincidentally texted her, saying he had broken up and would contact her after returning from abroad. This was Huang using a fake social media account. Convinced of the master's power, Yuru paid Huang for the initial rituals. Subsequent rituals, guided by the master, required large sums. Huang instructed Yuru to mortgage her apartment for 2.7 million Taiwan dollar, using cash for the rituals, as bank transfers were supposedly unacceptable. During these sessions, he drugged and assaulted Yuru, recording the acts. Huang then lured Yuru into selling her apartment for a fake investment project, promising profits to cover future ritual costs. She sold the apartment for 4.3 million Taiwan dollar, far below its 8 million Taiwan dollar value, through a deal arranged by Huang's bank contact, who used a clueless relative to sign the purchase. Yuru transferred 3 million Taiwan dollar to Huang for the investment. 2 months later, Yuru noticed health issue euphoria during rituals but fatigue otherwise. Suspecting something was wrong, she considered seeing a doctor. Alarmed, Huang feared a blood test would reveal drug use, exposing his scheme. Unable to deter her indefinitely, he decided to eliminate her. Citing an upcoming ritual, Huang discouraged medical visits, claiming blood tests would nullify the ritual's spiritual energy. During the next session, while Yuru was drugged, he had her sign a backdated loan agreement matching his earlier 3.2 million Taiwan dollar withdrawal, fabricating evidence of her repaying a debt. Using the master's number, he informed Yuru that a final ritual, led by the master in person, would complete her fate alteration in 6 weeks, fulfilling her wish. She was to avoid family, close contacts, and anyone tied to financial dealings, including Huang, to ensure success. This isolated her and provided Huang an alibi, as he ceased contact from March 2013. Huang then arranged for Shikunji to pick up Yuru on April 27, 2013, using the Tongbin SIM, and deliver her to a GIE meeting point after sedating her. Huang took Yuru to a rented house, destroyed her ID and phone, and killed her by forcing butane gas into her mouth for several minutes, causing death by oxygen deprivation. Late that night, he buried her in a forest. Guided by Huang, the police located and exhumed Yuru's remains, now just bones, confirmed as hers through testing. The two other women in Huang's hard drive videos were identified and persuaded to testify. They had hired Huang's firm for family investigations, but were drugged, filmed, and extorted. During the trial, Huang altered his story multiple times, claiming a genuine romance with Yuru gone wrong or an accidental death during a confrontation. His defense aimed to reduce the charge from murder to manslaughter. Ultimately, Shikunji received a 10-year sentence for his role. Huang Wenken, guilty of rape, fraud, extortion, drug possession, and murder, faced a potential death penalty. However, due to Taiwan's strong anti-death penalty movement at the time, he was sentenced to life imprisonment. This case illustrates that cunning schemes meet their match in diligent investigation. Huang Wenken leveraged his investigative expertise to craft a meticulous crime, exploiting Yuru's blind love and spiritual beliefs with sophisticated deception. His countermeasures, fake SIMs, falsified documents, timed communication cuts, and alibis were formidable. Yet, no crime is perfect. Lies, however clever, unravel over time. As the saying goes, to keep a secret, don't act. Reflecting on the victim, Yuru's tragedy stemmed from two words: blind devotion. Loving someone so intensely that you lose yourself, tying your happiness to another, leaves you vulnerable. When they turn away, your world collapses. Women who love with all their heart and soul, sidelining reason, are especially prone to deep, lasting wounds if they don't love wisely. Psychologists note that blind devotion manifests as prioritizing the partner above all, with thoughts, plans, and emotions revolving around them. You sacrifice your own needs, neglect work, family, and friends to be with them, fear losing them obsessively, and cling to them despite mistreatment, rationalizing their behavior or blaming yourself. Escaping toxic relationships is tough, even when you recognize the pain, as hope for change traps you. Such devotion leads to mental anguish, anxiety, depression, loss of self-worth, and disconnection from personal dreams and relationships. Yuru's case exemplifies this. For 2 years, she pursued her ex relentlessly, resorting to charms and rituals, borrowing money, and selling her inherited home, driven by an obsession to win him back, costing her life. Meanwhile, her ex moved on, barely recalling her. While pitiable, her fate underscores personal responsibility. Loving oneself first builds resilience against heartbreak. Love requires balance. Cherish it, but preserve your space, emotions, and self-respect. Love is vital, but not everything. Family, friends, work, and social bonds shape a fulfilling life. Share with loved ones. They'll stand by you. Love wisely, choose worthy partners, and value yourself to avoid falling for the wrong person.